stand and worship the Lord with us, that would be amazing. Thank you.
I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard a tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers only you provide, because you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love, 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 love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
Hey, good morning, church. Good, thank you. For all of you that are here, all of you online, thanks for watching. My name is Zach Jackson, and I have two of my friends here leading with us. Can we give them a round of applause? This is Casey. This is Jenny. And I'm so thankful. It's good to have friends. First, if you're watching online, or even you people here, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you're at, whatever medium you're doing, just so we can keep moving forward. We are a church that loves God, loves all people, and make disciples. And one of the ways that we love all people is by being for our neighbor. We are starting small groups to make disciples and be for our neighbors. And we're going to watch a really short video about what being for your neighbor looks like.
This is your house. These are your neighbors' houses. How many of these neighbors do you know by name? Go ahead, try to name them. If you're like most people these days, you probably only know a few of your neighbors by name. We have garages for our cars, privacy fences for our backyards, and we seem to be perpetually busy. You're doing pretty well if you wave or say hi as you're passing by. But what if we did more? What if we made it a point to learn the names of the people who live on our block? What if we took the time to listen to our neighbors and find out what makes them tick? What if our neighborhoods relied on each other in times of need, whether it be for a cup of flour or a shoulder to cry on? What if Jesus really meant that we should love our actual neighbors? Imagine the difference you could make in your neighborhood if you got to know your neighbors better. Imagine the difference you could make in your community if you partnered with others who had a desire to become better neighbors. Imagine the difference it could make in our cities if local churches were working together to make this a reality. You don't have to imagine very hard. It's happening. Check out The Art of Neighboring to discover how you can join others around the world to build genuine relationships right outside your door.
So one of the ways that we are being for our neighborhood, like it's talking there, is by giving away some Halloween candy. So we have these bags up here. If you want to give some Halloween candy to your neighbors, in each one of these bags, these are the safest Corona bags that you can have. Every single thing was dipped in bleach and sprayed with sanitizer, so it's completely safe. Put your name and number. There's a pen and paper inside of the bags, inside one of these pink baskets, just so we know and we can reach out to you later. And yeah, that's one of the ways that we're being for the neighborhood, and we would encourage you to help us in doing that. Also, if you consider yourself a member of this church, you have an opportunity to give at salemfirst.com is where we encourage you to give. And also in the back, we give out of the overflow of our hearts, not out of compulsion and not out of guilt or condemnation. So yeah, you are free to give as you like. And please stand with us, and we will get back to the rest of worship.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. You stood before creation, eternity in your hands. You spoke the earth into motion, my soul now descends. You stood before my failure and carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulders, my soul now descends. So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I'll walk upon salvation, your spirit alive in me, my life to declare your promise, my soul now to stand. So what can I say? And what can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered all. I am is yours. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered all. I am is yours. So I'll stand with arms high and heart Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all. And find me here, Lord, as you draw me near. I'm desperate for you, I'm desperate for you. I surrender. Drench my soul as mercy and grace unfold. I hunger and thirst, I hunger and thirst. With arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now, speak to me now. I surrender, I surrender. I wanna know you more, I wanna know you more. I surrender, I surrender. I wanna know you more, I wanna know you more. Like a rushing wind, Jesus, breathe within. Lord, have your way, Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way, Lord, have your way in me. Like a rushing wind, Jesus, breathe within. Lord, have your way, Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way, Lord, have your way in me. I surrender, I surrender. I wanna know you more, I wanna know you more. I surrender, I surrender. I wanna know you more, I wanna know you more.
As our worship team transitions, I want you guys to take a seat. Because if communication is 90% nonverbal, and we just spent the last little portion singing verbally, can we non-verbally come to God right now? So put your hands up with me. I surrender. You can just say it in your head, say it softly to yourself. This is a symbol of surrender. my life is not about me. Sometimes it takes a posture to put our hearts and mind to follow the words we actually want to say. Now, put your hands out like this. This is a symbol of generosity. And you could say this to yourself, quietly in your head, or out loud. What I have is not my own. What I have is not my own. Maybe close your eyes and just think about what are the things that God has given you. We're going to spend a little time of prayer. What are some of the things that maybe you have been provided for? Just the air you breathe has been provided for you today. Lord, the air you breathe is not my own. Maybe it's the car you drove to get here. Lord, the car you've given me is not my own. Maybe it's your education, the ability to read and write legibly. God, that is not my own. God, help us today. Just understand the things that we have are not our own. That you're a generous God. We're at your table, God, in your kingdom. There's plenty of food to go around. You already have rooms in a house for us. We're not on the couch. We're in our own room. God, help us to have that same heart wherever we go today or this week, to be generous, to think, what I have is not my own. We pray these things in your name, Jesus. Amen. Now, I used to think, well, hold on. For those that don't already know, we are 20 feet away, and that's why taking off our mask is something that we can do safely. And as you guys are there, and I appreciate you guys wearing your mask and following the guidelines that we have set before us. But I used to think the church was just, we can love God 168 hours a week. I mean, that is our mission, right? To love God. And the whole idea is to be a church that's 168 hours a week. But when Bill Williams, who passed away this year, left an estate to the church, I realized something. If you don't know, an estate is something that, once you die, there's all these things that maybe a net worth that if you put it all together, your house, your finances, your IRA, Roth IRA, your will, those things. Those things all together is an estate. And so Bill Williams left an estate to the church. Isn't that amazing? He left over $10,000 to go to the church. Can we give it up for Bill Williams? What a faithful servant of God who's shown me, and hopefully you, that you can love God beyond the physical time you're here on earth. Like more than 168 hours. This is something that will go on beyond that. It's like another level. I don't know if it's the fourth dimension. He's shown us, you can go beyond that. And I'm just so thrilled that he was able to think ahead and give in a way that shows you can do more than just love God the 168 hours. You can think even further ahead. So I'm just real thankful for Bill. And those are things as a church we want to use wisely as people give and people put those things in their state. We want to be a church that's using those things to further the mission of God. But there's so many options and ideas and thoughts and things we could use that money for. It could be, things for our fountain so it gets fixed. Maybe there's, carpet the gym or put some new wood flooring in the gym. Maybe it's something in our parking lot to fix. There's all sorts of things. And today in this sermon series about Madness in the Middle, we're going to talk about, how we can be pulled in all different directions, and sometimes they're all good. But let me keep going. Because part of our mission, too, is to love all people, be a church for the neighborhood. And we've got, Zach Jackson, who's up here on the team, got to talk with some people in our church who gave us some real-life examples of what it looks to love your neighbor. So Let's watch here.
Hello, my name is Zach Jackson, and today we have two special guests. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Jesse Shetler.
I'm Christy Shetler.
And you guys were recently displaced by the fires that happened in the Beachy Creek fires just outside of Salem here. Can you tell us some about your experience, what it was like for you guys, and maybe some ways you guys saw God through that?
Well, I was hunting when the fires broke out, and I came back Wednesday. It took me 24 hours to get home because of road closures, 2 different road closures. So I had extra time to think about what I might be coming home to or might not be coming home to. So, but I did have a real peace. I know a lot of people were praying for me and my family. So I had a lot of peace about what I was coming home to.
Yeah, I just got the call, to evacuate. I got a couple of hours notice, and so I just grabbed, the important documents and stuff, and got in the car with the kids that were with me. 2 of them were Jesse, so I had 4 kids, and we loaded up and headed to my parents' house down here. And as I'm pulling out of the driveway, I'm thinking, am I going to see either of these houses again? The one we're breaking so much sweat over building, and one that has all my possessions in it right now. Are we ever going to see those again or not? Because the way the fire was moving, it was pretty scary looking, and we were not sure. So we made it to mom and my parents' house and just kind of waited, just watching Facebook and news and just seeing what's the progress and hoping to hear from friends and neighbors that were still in the area. And then when Jesse came home, when he finally got home on Thursday, he was able to go back up to the place and check on it and check in with neighbors and visit with them and get an update on what was going on with the fires. And we had some good conversations with neighbors and reassuring them.
So it sounds like it was kind of a scary time. The fire came how close to your guys' property?
As the crow flies, it was about between 1.2 and 1.5 miles away. It was up the ridge, which is a little better. Fire doesn't burn downhill as fast as it burns uphill. So, but it was within a couple hundred yards of one of my childhood friends. And there was some other fires up the Abaquah Basin that were within quarter mile of 2 people I know pretty well also. So I was even more fearful for them than myself.
Because you're just such a great person and giving, right? Well, you guys had some cool stories of when you were leaving, and I know, Jesse, you got to talk with one of your neighbors. Can you tell me about that, what happened and how he responded?
I spent 3 days up there running generators on my freezers, or 3 freezers, and one other neighbor's freezers, and I did walk-arounds for another neighbor who was in Salem, and spent a lot of time at my house. But leaving the first night, I saw headlights in one of my neighbor's driveways, and I stopped because it was like a ghost town. Really, nobody was around. And so when I saw somebody there, I stopped to see if it was him or something that shouldn't have been going on. And just it was my neighbor, and he asked how it was going, and I gave him a report on what was the latest news that I'd been receiving, and he hadn't heard anything good, and what I gave him was good news. And he stayed the night. His wife and dog ended up staying because they felt it was safe. And it was just a short conversation, but this week, only a few days ago, he called me at 10:40 at night and just over and over expressed his thankfulness for what I did for him and his wife, and what peace and wisdom, as he called it, I gave them, and how it just changed the course of their day and their week. And it was just a conversation. I didn't do anything physical for him. It was very small, but it was personal, and it just really touched him.
Yeah. Do you guys think, how maybe would that encourage someone who doesn't know what to do when things are scary or when things are uncertain?
Well, I would say you never know what impact you're going to have on somebody. You don't have to have big lectures and life-changing experiences to impart to people. Be real, and try to, give them something from from your heart that this is from the Lord, from the Word or from your heart, but don't try to change everything with one conversation.
Yeah.
Build a relationship and start small and be yourself.
Shetlers, Jesse and Christy, thanks for being such a great example of what it means to be for the neighborhood. Can we give it up for them? That's just be for your neighbor, something small, be yourself. I love that line, because we can all be ourselves and we can all do something small. And as a church, we want to make disciples by being a church of small groups, and you saw that video of how we plan to do that. That's going to be our practical how to love your neighbor, give you some tools and some techniques, and gather in small groups so we can encourage one another and support one another, because that's the mission of the church. That's mission critical. Make disciples, and we want to help you do that. Now, in our sermon series, we're going through this fundamental question that asks this: how can I be me in a world that pulls at me? How can I be me in a world that pulls at me? And maybe think of not just the world, the people in your workplace or your neighborhood. Even think of your home. This week, I was at home with my wife and family. My Christine was sick with strep throat. And I feel extra bad because I had strep throat 2 weeks beforehand, and I gave it to her somehow. And she gets it, and I know exactly what it feels like. It's like swallowing glass. Have you ever had that? Anybody swallow glass? Yeah, don't do it. It's not recommended. Not only do we need to help take care of Christine, who's in her room, just taking naps and sleeping and resting, I had to make sure to make her the soup that is, the only type of soup that can go down the throat without being so painful. It's called Bueller's broth. It's some weird stuff that's on Pinterest. Yeah, exactly. Blech. Throw some salt on it and you got something that's decent. But it's some food. It's something you can have. I also have 3 little boys. 7, 5, and 3, 2 of which are in comprehensive distance learning. And if you're a parent or you know a parent, you got all these news about extending the school district to distance learning for another couple months. Oh, come on. Parents in here, you can have a little bit of a, that's a little frustrating for me, or, not what I was expecting, but I've got to get these assignments in with my kids. I've got to help them do all this learning, at the same time make sure my wife is feeling well, and then I have a sermon on Sunday. Sundays come every week. Did you know that? It just keeps coming every week with regularity. And so preparing and making sure everything's ready for that Sunday, there was a lot of things pulling at me and for my attention. All things good, but how do I be myself? How do I not go crazy? How do I not do the wrong thing? How do I make sure and help my kids learn, but also help my wife feel better, and also make sure the church is being led? There's so many things. Maybe it's external, or maybe it's internal in your own head, and you're just playing these things in your head about if I do this, I'm going to offend them, but if I don't do that, I'm going to hurt them. This is our culture in so many different ways, where if you make one wrong step, it feels like you've been rejected by others. So how do you navigate this idea of what I like to call the madness in the middle? And last week we talked about the myth. This week we're going to talk about the mystery. And next week, make sure you come, we're going to talk about the method of actually how did Jesus navigate this? Because I don't know if you know this, but Jesus was in the middle of 2 empires. And Jesus' empire and his kingdom that he built is the only one that's survived the thousands of years and that's been globalized. So here's the myth we talked about last week. If I go half and you go half, then we can meet in the middle. If I go half and they go half, we can meet in the middle. If I give 50%, you give 50%, we get 100%. But that's a myth. Here's the truth. If I go half and they go half, that leads to a painful middle for both halves. You've never heard a coach say, all right, guys, It's halftime. We got another 45 minutes to play. This is a championship soccer game. I want everybody to give 9.1% on the field. If all 11 players give 9.1%, what does that make? 100% if you round up. 100%. Or if you're on a basketball team, your coach never says, okay, if everybody gives 20% on the court, we'll make 100%, we're going to win the game. No one says that. It's give 100%. I mean, you hear it in sports all the time. Go all in. Leave it on the court. Don't hold anything back. Now, if you work with youth or if you're a parent of a small kid, you might know that you have to give 200%. I mean, you have to go over and above in order for your child to learn that, how to do their ABCs. Or for, if you're in youth ministry, for them to want to play that game, that's kind of weird and makes them come out of their shell. You have to go 200% just to get them to budge 50%. I mean, this is the truth, that it leads to pain for both halves. But how do we navigate this madness in the middle? I like to think that perhaps the idea of how can I be me, that's our question. How can I be in me when the world pulls at me? I think there's a mystery to that question. That question or that statement is just we're coming from the wrong side. My kids love Scooby-Doo. I don't know if you've watched Scooby-Doo. I always watched Scooby-Doo when I was a kid. And I love the mysteries that they try to solve. And it's always the last minute of the show that they, unmask the villain and the monster. And you think, oh, that's who it is. And you kind of, the whole time, you try to guess who it is, based on what you see in the clues. And for some reason, why is always Velma the one who solves the mystery? I mean, she's very deductive and scientific and, brainiac. But, come on. I wasn't, maybe it's because I'm a little offended. I wasn't the science person. I failed many science classes in high school and in college, yes. Zach was actually my lab partner. So maybe you know why. No, I won't go there. But let's go think, if this is not the truth, if that's the myth, and the truth is there's pain on both halves, so how do we come to this madness in the middle? What's the mystery behind it? Now, I want to share a little bit from the story of Jesus, how the disciples were trying to learn this mystery of who Jesus was. You see, there was this storm and this boat that these disciples were in, and they were going across this sea to continue to teach and preach and heal and, with the ministry of Jesus. And in the story, the disciples who are in the boat with Jesus began to experience a little madness, a little chaos. The boat begins to rock a little bit. The waves begin to hit the side of the boat, and it starts to get loud. I don't know if you know this, when the loudest time as a commuter, I ride my bike pretty often, the loudest time I ever ride my bike is when it rains. Because when the rain hits the pavement, I can hear it. When my wheels hit the water, it makes noise. When the cars that go by, it's much louder than you can imagine. And so I want you to get in the boat with me where all these disciples are in the boat, and they find Jesus doing something that's unusual because now the wind and the waves are becoming so strong that the disciples are fearing for their life. They're unsure if they'll survive. Perhaps you're unsure if you'll make it the next 3 months of distance learning with your child who you are, at the end of every day, just ready to crash out and binge watch or binge eat because you need something that's comfortable. This is where we find Jesus in the story. This is in Mark chapter 4. It says, Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. This is the middle of the loudest part of being in a boat is when there's a storm and thunder and rain and the crashing of the waves on the boat and the crashing of the water down on the boat. I mean, this is loud. And where do we find Jesus? Sleeping on a cushion. Man, I'm glad he's comfy. It continues. The disciples woke him up shouting. Why are they shouting? Because they have to yell over the noise. Teacher, don't you care? We're going to drown? Teacher, don't you care we're going to drown? They wake him up, they shout, they wake him up. This is what Jesus does. And when Jesus woke up, He rebuked the wind, and he said to the waves, "Silence, be still." And get this, suddenly the wind stopped. And there was a great calm. Then he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" This next line is where I want us to focus a little bit, because this is where the disciples are wondering. There's this mystery that cannot be solved. They don't know it yet. This is what they say. It says the disciples were absolutely terrified. Who is this man? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Who is this guy? There's a mystery. Who is Jesus? Even the wind and the waves, he's got this power over creation. How can you do that? The disciples are mystified. Within the middle of this madness of creation, they see Jesus having power to rebuke the wind and say silence to the water. And not much longer, Jesus is walking with these disciples, and a crowd is following them, and there's this woman who just wants to be healed. Now Jesus is walking, and as he's walking, he's on his way to heal someone. And in the story, on the way to heal someone, something happens. Sometimes as Christians, we get caught up on the destination, but not the journey. We get caught up on going to the church service once a week, 1 hour a week on Sundays, not the journey between Monday to Saturday. So when Jesus is on his way to help and heal someone comes up to Jesus, and she's been bleeding for 12 years. And when you're bleeding as a woman, you had to physically distance. This was the original physically distance material. This wasn't a government guideline. This was also the Jewish guideline, where if you were bleeding, you had to be physically distanced from others because you were seen as unclean. And so this woman who was unclean does this. Or she thinks this. It says, she had heard about Jesus. So she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself this: if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Some of us, you're thinking maybe there's middle in the madness. It's internal middle madness. Like all these things are happening, and you're overthinking things, or maybe you're overanalyzing things. Your self-talk is ridiculous. If anybody heard how you talk to yourself, they would be offended by what you were saying out loud because you treat yourself so bad. For this woman, it was not everybody is noticing. She's trying to be secretive, just thinking to herself, if only I could touch his robe. The madness wasn't a big storm and the world crashing down on the whole boat. It was just within her. It was herself. And this is what happens. Immediately, the bleeding stopped because she touched him. She could feel in her body that she had been healed of her terrible condition. This is so interesting right here. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. And this is what he asks. He stops. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe? Who touched my robe?" And the disciples were confused, like, "Are you kidding me? Do you realize how many people are around you?" I play tag a lot with my boys, James, Jordan, and Jackson, and we're always, the gray line of if touching the shirt means you're it or not is always something that changes every game. Maybe you can solve this after. Like, does it count if they touch your shirt, or do they have to touch your body? Now, for this instance, she just touched his robe, and he stopped, and he asked, "Who touched me?" The disciples say this: "Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you even ask who touched me? I mean, come on. It's expected that someone's going to touch you. Look how many people are close by." But he kept on looking. Verse 32, kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And Jesus says, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace Your suffering is over. How can Jesus know if power comes out of him? I mean, it was just his robe. It wasn't even his body. How can, who is this man? How can he let this power come out of him and realize it? See, there's sometimes knowing God and the mystery of who he is, it's hard to wrap our minds around it. Paul, who's written many letters and many scriptures in the New Testament after Jesus had been raised and brought into heaven, Paul writes all these letters to explain a lot of the mysteries of God, but it happens not in his education of Jewish culture. You understand, Paul was this theologian, this man who knew all the laws and abided by all of them. But it wasn't until he experienced Jesus that he began to understand the mystery of Jesus. He writes this letter to the Colossians, and it's just this one phrase that it's in the middle of this poem. He expresses this mystery where if you were to unveil the mask at the end of Scooby-Doo and you saw, oh, it was that person, Paul explains, hey, I'm going to unveil who is behind this mystery of how can they have this power to calm the winds, calm the waves. How can they have this power to even know that it leaves them? It says in Colossians 1:17, he existed before anything else. And this is key right here. And he holds all creation together. He existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. What if instead of the question we would ask is, how can I be me in a world that pulls at me? What if instead of this question, we ask something else? Or now that we realize this idea of being pulled at, we're looking at the wrong way. Because if Jesus holds all things together, if Jesus is the one who has the power to calm winds and waves, even knows when the power comes out of his robe, perhaps we need to see this question a little differently. And we turn it into a statement. We solve the mystery. Like, the world can't pull at what I let Jesus hold. What if we begin to look at things in a way where if Jesus in fact holds all things together, can I let go of things so that it's not pulling at me? And can I allow Jesus to do what he said he does? To live out what Paul explained, that he holds all things. I mean, are you sick and tired of trying to have every control or have control over everything? Maybe some of you are, you got the mail just like I did this weekend, and you got the ballots. And you're worried that if you vote here, you're going to offend some people. But if you vote here, you're not going to be yourself. Maybe that's something you're dealing with. Maybe you're dealing with, man, I really believe in these things, and I want to be this person, but if I do that, then this whole group of people are going to excommunicate me, or they're going to ask, who'd you vote for? Which is a real question that I believe you should answer. Ooh, come next week. It'll be fun. I mean, that is some serious tension. Maybe for you, though, you're like, oh, no big deal. I am stern in what I believe, and I'm going to vote this way. I'm going to vote for elephant. I'm going to vote for donkey. And it is fine with you. That's okay. Let me tell you, there is so many things in this world that pull at us. This madness in the middle, whether it's your spouse, your children, the line, you crossing this line of deciding things is going to be required of you. How do you go into, I'm just going to get real tangible because this is real for me and this is real for you. How do you get real tangible and go into the voting booth or drive to the ballot and be able to honor God, the Lamb, but not be associated with the elephant and the donkey in a way that puts them as the people who hold all things together? I heard a pastor give this great metaphor that your hand should be shaking as you check those boxes. Because you know, as Christians, as followers of Christ, that these elephants and these donkeys cannot hold all things together. The Lamb is the one that holds all things together. And I know there's tension in so many places. But can we begin to see the world through a new lens? Not how can I be me in a world that pulls at me, but maybe rather, how can I see the world as a place that can't pull at me because I've given Jesus hold on that? How can I let Jesus hold those things so I don't feel all the pulling? Yeah, there's going to be some tension, but let me tell you, Jesus' yoke is easy and his burden is light. He says, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, for I will give you rest. That's the Jesus that we follow. How do you, if the mystery and the madness in the middle is Jesus holds all things together, I want us to ask some questions. I want you to be thinking about right now, what or who is pulling you in different directions? What are some decisions in your life that you've got to make that are pulling you in different directions, whether good on both sides, or good and not so good and bad, or you don't know how to handle all of these things. You don't have to have all the answers as a Christian or as a follower, or even as a mom or dad. You don't have to have all the answers. But who or what are the things that are pulling at you in different directions? And then think about right now, what is the next step of faith to take to give Jesus more to hold? What is the next step for you to take to give Jesus more to hold? And maybe it just looks like that posture prayer, I surrender. And you don't know what to do first, but you know, I just want to surrender. And every day you just wake up and say, God, I have this before me, and I just want to surrender that to you. Or maybe it's, God, I want to be generous like you are, and help me to choose generosity when things come my way. We'll get more into the details of following the example of Jesus and how he navigates the madness in the middle. Zach's going to come up here and close us in a benediction, but if there's something that I can be praying for you, I'm going to be over here, because I know that there's more than just voting, and I've kind of popped on that a little bit more than I should, but there's so much going on in your life. And if I could pray for you and just support you in that way, I'd love to do that right over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. I have been looking forward to Caleb sharing today. I don't know why, but I just felt something. And I appreciate your message, Caleb, of the mystery and how to navigate that. Because that's one thing that I've been struggling with how do you navigate the mystery of Jesus and the mystery of when your friends are hurting, and when your friends maybe vote on both sides, and how do you navigate that and be in that, and where are you at? And I was reminded of the word mystery as it's in 1 Corinthians 13, the chapter of love. So I'm just going to read this real quick, and I hope it encourages you. 1 Corinthians 13, if I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind and is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant, which I do. It does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own. It is not provoked. It does not take into account a wrong suffered. Does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I also have been fully known. But now faith, hope, love, abide these three, but the greatest of these is love. So, God, help us be people that are marked and filled with your love. Help us navigate the mystery and rely on you and your example of love, to love our neighbor and to treat them, just to treat them and be like you were. Bless us as we go out today. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Don't forget to grab a bag to give to your neighbors and love